Breaking news just into Fox News Channel. A federal U.S. judge has just granted an emergency stay to temporarily allow people who landed in the U.S. with valid visas to stay in the country. This will affect the people detained at these airports where people are protesting tonight. Joining me now to talk about this is former mayor of New York City and advisor to President Trump on cybersecurity, Rudy Giuliani. All right, good evening,
Judge, how are
Mr.
you?
Mayor. I am fine. This just breaking news during my open. Federal judge signing this stay. What can you tell us about it?
Well, I think it's, first of all, I thought your opening was absolutely a terrific explanation of what's been wrong with this country for 30 years. Good deal of time that you were district attorney. I was U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York, and I couldn't get the Immigration Service to deport the criminals who were coming out of jail. They put them on bail and they commit more crimes, and then I'd have to arrest them again. And it's totally absurd. What Donald Trump wants to do, what Homeland Security wants to do under him, is focus on the criminal illegal aliens and get them out of the United States. Who possibly could object to that? I have no idea what these mayors are thinking about.
I don't know what they're thinking about either, and I have the same problem. I would seek to have someone deported after they serve their jail time. Their country didn't want them, so the United States would say, okay, we'll keep them.
Well, then what we should do is, first of all, we should develop detention centers for them. They shouldn't be catch and release. They shouldn't go to jail for 5 years for assault or attempted murder or selling drugs and then go back out on the street. They should go into a detention center. They should be held. They should be held, and then we should exert all the pressure that we have, which is enormous, by the way, to deport them to the countries where they're supposed to go to. Because
in fact, in the executive action that President Trump just signed, he talked about limiting visas from those countries that refuse to accept criminals back to their countries. They say, these countries that say, oh, no, he's too dangerous for us to take back. Well, here's the deal. Now we're going to pull you by the short hairs. You can't come here. But that makes perfect sense. And now we've got a president who gets it. Thank goodness.
Well, that actually describes his whole first week in office, which is negotiating in the best interest of the United States of America, not the rest of the world, but protecting our citizens from what's happened with illegal criminal immigrants and in a lot of other areas. This last week, I think, has been a week where he has done more than Roosevelt did in 100 days.
I don't think there's any question. He not only hit the ground running, he's been airborne since the first 24 hours.
He doesn't sleep.
Mayor,
I know this.
I know that.
He doesn't.
We
We both know him personally, right? This man doesn't sleep.
It's unbelievable. But I want to ask you about this ban. I want to ask you about this ban and the protests. Does the ban have anything to do with religion? How did the president decide the 7 countries? I understand the permanent ban on the refugees.
Okay.
Talk to me.
I'll tell you the whole history of it. So when he first announced it, he said Muslim ban. He called me up. He said, put a commission together. Show me the right way to do it legally. I put a commission together with Judge Mukasey, with Congressman McCall, Pete King, whole group of other very expert lawyers on this. And what we did was we focused on, instead of religion, danger. The areas of the world that create danger for us, which is a factual basis, not a religious basis. Perfectly legal, perfectly sensible, and that's what the ban is based on. It's not based on religion. It's based on places where there are substantial evidence that people are sending terrorists into our country.
Well, let me ask you this. When I was kind of surprised to see that Saudi Arabia and Pakistan are not on the list. And yet, we know that the San Bernardino attack by Syed Farouk and Malik, I think her name was Tashfeen Malik, she was born in Pakistan and then came through Saudi Arabia. So, I mean, why were some of those countries left out?
I'll tell you about Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is going through a massive change. I think the kingdom, particularly under the new prince, has a real understanding that we're dealing with a massive radical Islamic terrorist problem. It is not the old Saudi Arabia. This isn't the Saudi Arabia of 2000, 2001, 2002. President Obama is dealing with a new Saudi Arabia, which is
President Trump. Yeah,
President Trump rather is dealing with a very different Saudi Arabia than President Obama was dealing with, and a Saudi Arabia that has much closer relationships with Israel and with us if we know how to use it correctly. Pakistan, I would have to know more about. That troubles me a little bit like it troubles you.
All right. Mr. Mayor, you know, I can't believe I'm not in New York tonight. You and I are always trying to connect.
I don't know. We miss each other all the time.
All right. It's good to see you, though. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And
anytime.
Thank you. Time for a different opinion. Joining me now is former foreign policy advisor to Barack Obama presidential campaign and former State Department official David Tafuri. All right, David, good to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me.
The first time. Okay, now we just found out that a federal judge has put a ban, or a stay, I should say, on the president's ban. And it's a temporary stay. Do you know who the judge is, the federal judge who put the stay on the ban?
I don't. I learned about this from watching the beginning of your show, and I tried to look really quickly.
Maybe we can find out who put the temporary stay on that. But what is your opinion of this ban? And are you surprised that the stay has been implemented? Talk to me.
This executive order is a mess. The reason is that it doesn't accomplish the U.S. interests in protecting us from terrorism. Let me give you an example. This bans visits from people from 7 different countries. But the last terrorist attacks in the U.S., San Bernardino, which you mentioned, Orlando, the New York, New Jersey bombings, the people who did those terrorist attacks didn't come from any of these 7 countries. They weren't included at all. And yet the ban is actually too broad. It prevents people like
Tashfeen Malik. Okay, she is from 2 of the countries that were not included.
Right.
Okay.
The San Bernardino, Orlando bombers, they came from Pakistan and Afghanistan.
Don't you think that the White House, don't you think that they have some sense of what's going on, that they have intelligence that we don't have, that maybe they have stuff that's more contemporary than you and I have from months ago?
We have great people in our intelligence community, great people in the military working on this. My guess is the people that wrote this are not those people. The people who wrote this executive order probably haven't been to the Middle East, don't know that much about the Middle East. They've fashioned an order. Because they've fashioned an order that does not protect us and actually bans huge groups of people who are actually our friends, who we need to support us in the fight against ISIS.
Why do you assume that people from Somalia are our friends when, the number, you go to Minnesota, we just had an attack there on Thanksgiving. There's a lot of assaults and a lot of attacks by some of these, but I know what you're saying.
All people from Somalia are good people. Of course there are bad people in Somalia. Of course there are bad people in Iraq. But there are good people in Iraq who work with us, who work with the U.S. military.
Okay.
We've ended a refugee resettlement program that was designed to reward the Iraqis who helped the U.S. military in the fight against ISIS. Let me give you an example. I served in Iraq in 06 and 07, the height of the war. I had 2 Iraqis who helped me. Their lives became in danger because they were helping Americans. I and others helped them get through the refugee resettlement program. They were resettled here in the U.S. as a reward to their good service and risking their lives and helping us. And they're good, law-abiding citizens now. Every single military person, every military person who's served in Iraq or Afghanistan or anywhere else in the Middle East will tell you that we need a refugee resettlement program. We need to reward the people who help us.
We got to go. Just so you know, there are exceptions on a case-by-case basis, and I suspect that that's the kind of guy, just like the guy who was the translator for the Army, former U.S. Army translator, got in today. The order makes it clear.
But he got stuck for a couple of days.
You know what? Deal with it. We're in the middle of a terrorist war.
There are women and kids stuck at the airport. Why fashion an executive order that prevents grandmas from coming to the U.S.?
You know what? It's just like they told us grandmothers were coming from Central America, and they were all teenagers and men. But anyway, David, I love having you on. You're smart. We'll have you back. David Tafuri. All right, next.